Howdy. This is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and today is Monday, November 3rd, 2025. And I wish you a very, very, very happy Give Someone a Dollar Day. On today's show, we have real live basketball to talk about today. Ohio State is 1-0. They pick up a win over IU Indy tonight. If you're watching live on YouTube and here on Twitter as well, thanks for being here. Buckeyes pick up a win. There's a lot of thoughts. There's a lot to get into on today's show. So we will recap it. But the best news of all is that Ohio State basketball and college basketball is back. No sports, please, in the Arizona Florida game. I'd like to watch that in my own time as I've been locked in on Ohio State. Also, what are we doing, college basketball? What are we doing? Ohio State's kind of at fault for this. Why do we have Arizona, Florida, and then BYU playing some other team that's okay? I can't remember who it is. And that's it. The entire day of college basketball. That's all we get. We got to be better, college basketball. We need better games. And by the way, Ohio State should start the season on Tuesday from now on because Duke and Texas are going to get a lot of attention tomorrow. That said, we are here to talk about Ohio State basketball's win over IU Indy. The score will shock some people, especially those without Big Ten Plus and those who haven't heard of Amari Bynum. They're going to see the score and say, well, Ohio State's bad. Jake Diebler, he can't get a hold of this program. Is that my opinion? We'll find out on this show. Encourage you, as always, get to the Substack. I'm posting some good stuff there, folks. I know there's people who are subscribed here on the pod or on YouTube or whatever the case may be, and there's people who are on the Substack and they eat it up and they like it. I would encourage you to get there too. It's your only hub in the entire world that is strictly for Ohio State men's basketball. So encourage you to get there and subscribe on the YouTube as well. I've got a link there on the Substack. Here comes a link on the YouTube. You get it at this point, right? You know we want to get there. Thanks for all of those who have subscribed on YouTube. We got exactly where we wanted to go and over the number before the season started. I don't know what the new goal will be, probably like 1 billion or so. Think we can make that happen. I don't know if Wi-Fi is readily available across the world enough to get to 1 billion, but we shall see. All right, so let's talk Ohio State and its win over Indy. Drop in the comments your thoughts on the game, please. If you're live on YouTube or on Twitter, follow wherever you get your podcast, subscribe there. 5-star review. Can't let the nut house win. You get it. Okay. So, Ohio State broke a record. Ohio State broke a record tonight. And yet the entire fan base, well, it seems like the entire fan base is unhappy. Ohio State set the record for most points in a season opener in program history. Count them, 118 points against IU Indy. The problem here, the problem is that I think it's probably not the only record Ohio State broke this evening, and the other record that they probably broke is not a good one. Now, I don't have enough interns here. I wish I had some elves sitting under my desk right now who could type away and figure out the answer for me, or maybe this is just a simple ChatGPT query. But I'm assuming Ohio State giving them 102 points is also a record for a season opening game. It's probably the most Ohio State has ever allowed in a season opening game as well. So you set a good record. You probably set a not so good record, but hey, it's game one. Records are meant to be broken in game one, right? So that happens. You have three players for Ohio State score 20 plus points. Christoph Tilley leads away in scoring. You got Bruce Thornton, and you've got who's our third here? Devin Royal scoring a bunch of points. Royal was really, really good in the first half. But overall, we know what the problem is. We know what the issue is. We know what's top of mind. It's not the fact that Ohio State scored over 100 points. It's not the fact that the Buckeyes started the game 8 of 8 from the field and 5 of 5 from the 3-point line. It's not the fact that Christoph Tilley looks like a really, really good 3-point shooter and stretch 5. He was 1 of 2 from the 3-point line, but really good. stretch five for Ohio State. It's not the fact that you got something off the bench here from Amari Bynum and Gabe Cupps. No, that's not what we're thinking about. What we're thinking about is the defensive performance from Ohio State in this one. So here's what we're going to do. Okay. I'm going to go through the first half. I'm going to tell the story of the first half, tell the story of the second half. And then at the end of the second half, that's where I get to the point where I know what the major takeaway is going to be from this game. So once we get to that major takeaway, which is the Ohio State defense, how concerned am I? How concerned should this team be? That's where we'll really get into the nitty gritty here on the start in the first half, and things could not have started better for Ohio State. John Mobley Jr., Bruce Thornton, Devin Royal, they all hit triples in the first 2 minutes. Brandon Knoll makes a layup. You look up, and Ohio State started 8 of 8 from the field, 5 of 5 from the three-point line. Bruce Thornton and Devin Royal already have 2 3-pointers apiece. Every single starter scored within the first 3 minutes of the game. The pace was breakneck, as expected. If you listen to the preview show right here on Views from the Shop podcast, you knew exactly what was coming. You knew what IU Indy was going to give to Ohio State in this game, and what I told you was going to happen, it is exactly what happened. You're not wasting your time listening to or watching this show. Ohio State handled this pressure. They handled the pace with ease. And as expected, when you break a press, a lot of times you have a numbers advantage. And that's what Ohio State had in this one. They didn't miss a shot until 14 minutes and 22 seconds left in the first half. Go look at Penn State. Go look at TCU. Look at some other Power 5 programs tonight who are struggling or are likely to lose at this point. Go look at that. I know this win feels like, man, I feel uncomfortable with how the defense played. Couldn't have been worse, and the offense looked really, really good overall to start. You look at Gabe Cupps, you look at Amari Bynum. They're the first off the bench for Ohio State. So to take note of this show, I told you the first off the bench in the front court and the back court were going to be Cupps. Bynum, by the way, I'm not gonna name them. I saw another Ohio State podcast who focuses mostly on football, talking about how Gabe Cupps shouldn't be playing for Ohio State, and then that tweet was deleted. So that did happen. And at that time, Ohio State went with 3 guards. They got Thornton, they've got Cupps, they've got Mobley in there with Amari Bynum and Ivan Negavon. Early in game 1, you would expect that's probably something that we see for the rest of the season. But as the first half goes on, you see beautiful passing. John Mobley Jr., he finds Colin White streaking to the rim on a picture perfect pass into a layup. And then White, he decides to spread some love here. He shares and he cares to Amari Bynum, who finishes an alley boop, alley oop for his first bucket. Maybe when Bynum finishes alley oops from now on, we call them alley boops. I don't know. I hate I hate it. I hate that I said that. Someone put me down. 9 assists on your first 11 made field goals. I tweeted this out. Uh, some people not sure if that fits their play style. I'm not sure about Steelers offense. Yeah, doesn't seem fun to me. MJ, if you know, you know. Come on. Just poor excuses, but we're not getting into that right now, okay? 9 assists on your first 11 made field goals. That's absolutely excellent. That's a phenomenal assist rate. But Ohio State really struggled to get distance from IU Indy there in the first half. They go up 28-22 at the under 12 timeout. IU Indy cuts the lead all the way down to 4 out of the timeout. Jason Chat misses a 3. Devin Royal, he turns it over, driving. He wanted the foul. He didn't get it. John Mobley Jr. misses a 3. And IU Indy, you give them credit. They took advantage of some weird bounces that turned into offensive rebounds, that turned into points. And at the same time, Ohio State goes over 3 minutes without a field goal there in the first half. So the question for me was, who's going to step up? Who's going to settle this team in? You would think it would be Bruce Thornton, but they've got enough athletes on this team now with Bruce Thornton, with John Woolley Jr., with Devin Royal, even with Brandon Knoll, especially with Christoph Tilly off the bench with Amari Bynum. You've got guys who can come in, settle you down, and get you some shots, and hopefully take advantage of some misses defensively as well. Well, it was Devin Royal who stepped up to stop the drought. He hits a fader in the paint while getting harassed. He makes the free throw. Royal stays hot with another bucket. Gabe Cup steals an inbounds pass. Tilly ends up hitting his first triple as a Buckeye to put OSU up by 10. It feels like they're back in control. But the entire story of this game for Ohio State was that you're in control, it doesn't feel like you're dominating. You may be up by 16, but it feels like this is an 8-point game. It feels like IU Indy is keeping this game closer than you would like it to be. Jake Diebler, he kind of throws a changeup at IU Indy out of a timeout. Coming out, I would have to go back and look at it. Some kind of look like zone that leads to a steal off a skip pass. It was Devin Royal who jumped the pass. He's fouled on the other end. You get another turnover forced on the next possession. Gabe Cupson fouled. He, by the way, he forces the team forces two turnovers that leads to two shooting fouls on the other end. And by Adam Jardy's count, according to one of his tweets, I could have looked, but I just trust Jardy. Force a turnover on 6 or 7 possessions during that stretch. That gets you up by 15. Tilly, he finds Knoll after breaking the press as well late in the first half. A note there, the reason I throw that in is because Brandon Knoll, he only had 6 points in this game. He did have 10 rebounds. He didn't get a lot of looks overall for Ohio State, going just 3 of 4 from the field. But what I will say about him, and this is something I said when they got him from Wright State, that number one, he's so good off the ball and cutting to the rim. He's so fleet-footed as well. My question was, does the athleticism, does the speed, does it translate to high-level Division I basketball? And at least in this game, again, you're playing IU Indy. This is another Horizon League team expected to be really, really bad this year. We'll talk about that in a second. But overall, what you saw from Knoll was exceptional. I think in his ability to be crafty around the rim, get himself open, and make shots. I see your comment there at Sage1864. Strange the way Knoll's pronounced. I tell you what, the overall production value of this game for Big Ten Plus, I give him an A for effort. The commercials at times were weird, like it's just like kind of green bars was kind of the commercial, and not at least that's what I got on my feed and not pronouncing Noel's name correctly. It's Brandon Knoll. It's not Noel. At least that's what he told me when he joined Ohio State months ago. So unless that changed over the past couple weeks, it's pronounced Knoll. However, they're trying to pronounce Matthew Gruzicik, goodness. So we go into halftime, 50 points allowed. 50 points allowed in 20 minutes. Not good. Not good. 50% from the field as well for IU Indy. Not good for Ohio State's defense. They gave up a lot of bunnies. IU Indy gets to the free throw line 13 times. They make 11 of those shots. They had 5 offensive rebounds out of 15 total rebounds. It just felt like, I mean, you could give up 40 points and be unhappy. You could give up 30 points and still be unhappy about your defensive performance. You give up 50 points. Oh my goodness. Just really, really scary defensively. However, on the offensive side, 66 points. That's great. On pace for whatever 66 times 2 is. It's a lot. It's over 100. No surprises offensively. From what we said all preseason to now, they look great. This is what we expected. Devin Royal, 19 points. Moses scoring just like the last 2 years. Bruce Thornton, 13 points. Super efficient. Vintage Bruce with a couple of triples. That's to get himself open, hit a floater in the paint, a couple of layups, 67% from the field. After a hot start, you kind of cool off, get down to 40% from deep. But 10 of players who got minutes in the first half, they scored 17 points off turnovers. That's fantastic. John Hooley Jr. assists in the first half alone, 2 shy of his career high in only 18 minutes of play. So, all of that said, you say, look, this offense looked really, really good in the first half. What you needed and what you expected from Ohio State playing an inferior opponent was they are going to take this game in the second half by the reins. They're going to take it over. They're going to have full control over IU Indy. And instead, that's not how it goes. Offensively in the second half, things still run smoothly. I mean, you scored almost 120 points in 40 minutes. There's no reason to complain about that. Christoph Tilley, he runs the floor like a true stretch 5. He makes a couple shots to open the second half, scores 9 of Ohio State's first 11 points in the second half, then Gabe Cups. He goes down, pokes a ball loose, couldn't quite tell what was hurting, but he goes to the locker room, comes right back out, seems to be fine. I'll try to get some info on that when I get the chance here later on tonight. Came back to the bench quickly. He would re-enter the game. And as the second half goes on, you just continue to ask yourself, is it finally time for Ohio State to take over? Get a couple offensive rebounds. Knoll finishes with a hook shot. Next possession, Bruce Thornton, he goes coast to coast for a layup. By the way, and I tweeted this too, Bruce Thornton going coast to coast, and it was full speed, 100% effort. I don't think we've seen Bruce Thornton do that in his entire career at Ohio State, it feels like. Like, he can get down the floor, but a lot of times he'll kinda slow down. He will take some time to survey the court and no longer be the aggressor, and I can tell you that at the end of the year last year, that was the number one complaint with Bruce Thornton is that he's great. He's an exceptional leader, he's an exceptional ball player, but he has got to learn to play with pace the way Jake Diebler wants. That was a really good sign, and I shared on the show before that that's a point where he's really improved over the offseason and into this year. So that was a great encouraging note from Bruce Thornton. You get up by 20 points with 11:13 left. Ohio State won this game by 16 points. Therefore, the final 10 minutes of the game were won by IU Indy. It's finally time to bury them, right? You get to a timeout with 11:13 left. You force an air ball, but Noel turns it over. All night, this was the story. You just waited for 5 full minutes of clean basketball on both sides of the court, and this is something that I said back in the Chris Holtmann days, where when Chris Holtmann in the final kinda stage of his career at Ohio State, they could put it together offensively, but defensively, they couldn't keep up. Or I remember a Wisconsin game where I think he got thrown out of that game, where defensively, they were really, really good the entire game. They could not get a bucket when they needed it, and this is how this game felt. Ohio State exceptional offensively, but defensively, they couldn't put it together for 5 full minutes and just completely stuff IU Indy into a locker. They couldn't do it. You got a couple of stops, you get a couple of scores, you go up 96 to 79, but IU Indy answers. And IU Indy continued to answer, and that was the story of the game. Their lead gets down to 14 with 7.5 minutes left, gets down to 13. The lead continues to dwindle for Ohio State. They end up pulling away in this game mostly because of fouls. This is what crushed IU Indy, and this was kind of the deciding factor in the game. Ohio State made 28 more free throws than IU Indy in this game. They made 42 total free throws. They went to the free throw line over 50 times. 53 free throw attempts in this game for Ohio State. That's the nature of IU Indy and how they wanted to play defense. I told you coming into this game, IU Indy was going to be aggressive. They were going to press for all 40 minutes. That leads to fouls. 3 players foul out in this game. 3 others had 4 fouls. Felt like we're watching Ohio State last year. Stewart, is that you? Aaron Bradshaw, is that you? Fouls decided this game, unfortunately for IU Indy. And again, as I mentioned, kind of coming into this game, sorry, I said on the previous show, I expect Ohio State to win. I said I expect Ohio State to score over 100 points. I felt very confident in that, and they did. And I said Ohio State would thump and pull away from IU Indy pretty quickly. That's the one thing that they didn't do, and it was because of the style of play. It's hard to play against. It's why I was terrified of taking Ohio State against the spread, even though the BIP screamed for me to. The BIP also screamed for me to take Ohio State's over. I refused to do it, and I regret that. Even though I felt so confident they would go well over, well, not even well over. I felt confident they were going to get to 100, but it doesn't matter at this point. At the end of the day, the story of this game is the fact that Ohio State could not shove IU Indy into a locker, which is what they should have done to a team that is what 365th in Ken Palm. Like they are one of the bottom 10 teams analytically, according to Mark Torvik and according to Ken. And you allowed 102 points to this team. And it's not like this is because of the possessions. I told you coming into this game, IU is gonna press, they're gonna get a lot of shots up, they're gonna get a lot of three-pointers up, and that's how they're gonna try to keep this game close. Give credit to IU Indy. They shot 50% from the field in this game. They shot 31% from the three-point line. That's not great, but 50% from the field, 14 to 20 from the free throw line, still not great, but kind of helps you get there. They turned the ball over 13 times with the amount of possessions that they had. That's not awful. And again, I give credit to IU Indy as well because it's about the worst game plan you could have coming into a game against Ohio State. When you've got a roster chock full of D2 players and only returned 1 player from last year, brand new head coach, and now you've gotta go play a bunch of four-star athletes and probably transfer four-star players as well. My goal, what I would do is I would limit possessions so that the opponent that's much better than me and much more talented than me cannot outscore me by as much because you limit possessions, you limit the amount of times that they can score, right? And if you're not as good, then you're not gonna score as much. Limit possessions, keep the game close. That's not what IU Indy did, but you give them credit. Game plan, not something I would've thrown out there. They stuck to their guns. Never would've plugged in this game plan against Ohio State. Good for them. They did what they needed to do, IU Indy, to make this game uncomfortable for Ohio State. Other kind of notes in this one, and then we'll get to the major one, right? Didn't see much half court in the half court today due to just the press. Would have been interesting to see in the first half. John Mobley Jr. kind of got a double ball screen. Megavon rolls and he scores at the cup. So a nice feed there from John Mobley Jr. Again, the assist numbers for John Mobley Jr. He ties his career high with 8 assists in this game. The press, by the way, Ohio State handled it pretty well. They had 3 turnovers off the full court press that I could count. They allowed 2 points off those turnovers. That's fine. One from Tilly, he gets the ball stolen from behind. I mean, that's what kinda happens. I know Tilly can handle the ball a little bit. He's still a 7-footer. You don't want him taking the ball all the way down the floor. So he gets the ball stolen. You get a couple of close calls overall, but pretty clean. Pretty clean. When you're getting pressed all game, I think you take that. Any other notes in this game, I guess I would just say is this: Ohio State got carved up at times defensively. This was, again, my concern into this entire preseason. Look, I had someone tell me maybe a week before the season started, sometime last week, who said, "You know what? We could have the number 1 offense in the nation this year." That's how good they feel about the offense. They scored a bunch of points against Tennessee. That's gonna be a second weekend caliber team in the NCAA tournament. They scored a bunch of points against them. They scored a bunch of points against Ohio. They just now scored 118 points against IU Indy. At the same time, though, defensively, again, they got carved up. Great spacing, off-ball movement from IU Indy. You give them credit. Like I said on the preview show, you need to keep your head on a swivel, especially against a team like this. The pass and cut, the two-man game was working, but to be honest, it was kind of discouraging to see. And I don't think that I feel as concerned, like, going through Twitter, oh my goodness, there are people who are really, really upset. They think this team is bad. I saw a comment like that on Twitter saying that this team is bad. Dealer's gonna be gone after this year. I'm not even close. I'm nowhere close to feeling that way about this team. On the other side of it too, IU Indy, they made some really tough shots in this game that you can't really get mad about. Like, you defended it well. You had a hand or 2 hands in the face. It was an awkward shot, contested, and yet IU Indy still made the shot. So for people who feel really upset, or especially for the people who just box score watch and they see, how on earth did Ohio State give up 102 points to some directional school of Indiana? Like, that's insane. It is insane, but some of these shots that IU made, they were very impressive. At the same time, though, there were times where there were just lapses defensively. There are times where instead of closing out, you're jumping into the corner at a three-point pump fake. They're going to take one dribble, and they can either take the shot or they can give it to the open man because Ohio State's rotating and it leads to a shot being made. And that's just at the end of the day, it's very, very discouraging. And I don't know how you can be thrilled overall with how long it took Ohio State to get distance from IU Indy, and really the fact that they never did get real distance from IU Indy. I don't know what their largest lead was in this game. I don't know if I'll be able to see this based on the page that I'm on. Their largest lead was 22. They won this game by 16. I believe they led by 22, maybe at some point in the second half. I don't remember when exactly that was. I'm locked in for all 40 minutes. I'm taking notes and all that stuff. I don't know when it was, so apologies. But I mean, it takes this long. You're favored by 30 points, and at the end of the game, you're like, "Shoot, with 2 minutes left, like, we're gonna win," but this doesn't feel good for Ohio State. So, again, I think the biggest gripe that you can have on how Ohio State played overall was the defensive performance. There's no question about it. And can it be fixed? Is it a huge concern? I don't know. I really don't know at this point because, again, what I've heard all offseason, especially this preseason, is how good this Ohio State offense is and that this defense is behind, and that was absolutely confirmed in this game. I think IU Indy can be a good team. Uh, from what Ben Howland did at West Liberty, Logan County, from what the pace and the three-point shooting and just overall chaos that they throw at opponents, this is a hard team to not necessarily beat, but just play against for 40 minutes. I get all that. I think IU Indy can be a good team. Honestly, I'm surprised that they're rated so low, and I think that that's gonna go up, and I think IU Indy doesn't finish worst among all teams in their conference and all that. Not that I'm a Verizon League knower at this point. Maybe someone else is. I guess we asked Brandon Knoll his thoughts because he knows the Verizon League better than just about anyone. But overall, the defensive performance from Ohio State was bad. It was not good. There's no excuse for giving up over 100 points to IU Indy. I don't care about the pace. I don't care about the amount of field goals that they got. I don't care about the advanced metrics that we'll be able to see probably overnight and into tomorrow. I don't care about any of that. You gave up over 100 points to IU Indy, and that is a problem. I don't know what those inside the locker room, I don't know those in the staff or those close to the program would say about this, but for me personally, I can absolutely say that it's a concern. And I caught flack today. I posted on Twitter my season predictions that if you listen to that show or watch that show, you already know what I said. But if you missed it, I put it on Twitter and I said Ohio State's going to lose to Notre Dame. A lot of people disagreed with me on that. Well, here's the thing. Look what Ohio State did defensively against IU Indy. And I guess while we're here, let's see if we can pull up some numbers on Notre Dame's offense. Notre Dame is returning 3 of their top 5 scorers. And they also return a player who scored over 20 points per game last year. Notre Dame is not rated highly whatsoever, but in terms of their offensive prowess, I I, I would have some concerns about Ohio State being able to really shut down Notre Dame. So Notre Dame in offensive adjusted efficiency, according to this is Bart Torvik, is 62nd. Is that impressive? No, absolutely it's not. But the guard play that they have, returning Marcus Burton, that can be a good team. That can be a tough game for Ohio State when they play them in 2 weeks. That's all I have to say. And this is why I picked Notre Dame. I could be completely wrong, and that's fine. I hope I am wrong. I hope Ohio State beats Notre Dame. That's part of the reason why I picked Ohio State to beat Notre Dame is I'm not sure that that defense will be ready to defend at that point in the season, and they certainly were not ready to defend tonight. So there's a lot of fans who I guess are upset over this game, and I completely understand it. There's fans who say fire Jake Gabler, and those are ones that you just kinda you grab a slice of moldy cheese and say, "Hey, come here," and then you just lure them in the trash can and you shut the lid because just there's no skill in saying that. Like, why? Why fire Jake Diebler? Well, they missed the NCAA tournament. Okay, why? Like, you gotta give me our one brain cell that flips on a trampoline. We gotta be better than that. We gotta do more than that. You need a real live response to that, at least for me. I mean, I do this podcast thing. A lot of people don't, so that's fine. But I just feel like if you're gonna say that, then you're gonna have to say why and what he should do differently or the direction of the program, whatever. I don't know. All that said, am I concerned about Ohio State defensively moving forward? Yeah, I've been concerned this entire season. That's why I picked them to go 19 and 12 this year and not 25 and 6. I mean, there's gonna be some games this year that they lose simply because defensively, they can't get a stop. And they may score 87 points in the game, but it's not gonna be enough because UCLA scores 93. UCLA is not probably not a good example because their pace will be so slow, but maybe it's Maryland, for example, where they lose that game 92 to 89 because they just couldn't get a stop and they scored a lot offensively, but the defense is so far behind. Do I think that the defense is that far behind? Like, is tonight's performance indicative of how far behind this defense is? I don't think so, but I absolutely could be wrong. I would not hold me to that at this point. So, moving forward for Ohio State, they'll take on what is it, Purdue Fort Wayne coming up on Friday. They've got App State the game after, and then it might be Notre Dame or it might be one other kind of buy game for Ohio State. They're gonna have to show that they can play defense. They're gonna have to hold a team, my gosh, under 70 points. If that's too much to ask for, I'm sorry, but I mean, defensively, that it is a concern, and it is something that as Ohio State fans, I get your concern, I get being angry about it, but if you're hate watching this game, or as this game goes on, you're posting on Twitter and talking about how bad this team is and same old. I mean, I think we saw very clear indications from these 40 minutes that this Ohio State offense is gonna be really, really good this year. Again, I can't answer if the defense can catch up, but offensively, I think they're gonna be just fine. So Buckeyes win this game. They win this game with 118 points. If you just it's kinda like going to the eye doctor, you cover up one eye, and, you just see the 118. Just forget about the 102. It's fine. We can go to bed because this team is 1-0, and you can be happy. You can wake up in the morning and say, "Well, at least we're not Penn State. Well, at least we're not TCU. At least we're not what other, Power 5 program maybe losing or has lost already that I've missed." That could be the case, but for fans who especially if you're tuning in and you're more of a football fan, you miss this game, you don't have BTN Plus or kinda watch in the background, you're like, "How on earth did they do 102 points?" Yeah, it's a concern, but I don't think defensively they are so bad that they can't make the NCAA tournament. If that changes, if my thoughts change, I will let you know. I don't think they're there at this point. By the way, can you like the video if you're watching on YouTube? Even if you're not watching on YouTube, just follow the link. I posted it in the comments. Can you like the video on YouTube, please? Every time I ask someone to do that, they do a great job. So please do that. If that's you, I'd love to give you a thumbs up for that. Virtual thumbs up, I guess. And again, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We cover Ohio State basketball. We, as if I have a mouse in my pocket. I don't. I cover Ohio State basketball year round, no matter what. I've had several coaches on, several players on the show, have had media members, have the opportunity to have some great relationships within and kind of around the program, which helps me gather some intel and kind of stay informed on the team, which I'm very, very grateful for because it helps me cover this team so much better. So if you like that type of content, if you're in on Ohio State hoops, if you want to stay informed, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, subscribe on YouTube, follow on all the socials as well. All right. So we're off now. When's Ohio State play next? Anyone know? Is that a casual take of me? It's Friday, right? Yeah, it's Friday. Ohio State plays on Friday against Purdue Fort Wayne. So if I were you, I would expect a show probably on Thursday morning of this week for a Purdue Fort Wayne preview. We'll recap the game on Friday night, and then we'll be back probably on Monday with a preview for App State before they take on Notre Dame next Sunday. That's the first big test for Ohio State. So appreciate you being here today. Again, defense discouraging, but offense encouraging. I don't know which one is like more on the extreme on the spectrum here, but they're both very extreme. So again, encourage you please like the video on YouTube, like if you're on Twitter watching here as well. We've got a crazy audience. I appreciate you being here. I'm really excited for this new season. Always a bunch of new faces and names that come in. So if you're new here, you can always DM me on Twitter as well, and I'm happy to chat there. Also, get on the Substack. You got to get on the Substack. That is the best place for you to be. It's Views from the Shot, podcast.substack.com. All right. The only reason I'm still talking at this point is because numbers continue to go up on the amount of people who are watching. So if you've got questions, feel free to drop them. If not, I got to be quiet at some point. I mean, you can't listen to me just keep talking for no reason, right? At this point. So I guess it's time for me to stop talking. Okay. Thanks for being here. Numbers are crazy. Super thankful for that. Super thankful for you. Tell a friend about the show. Buckeyes are 1-0. They are 1-0. They are 1-0. Sleep well tonight, friends. The Buckeyes are 1-0. Till next time, thanks again for being here. I appreciate it more than you can ever understand. I will shut up before you shut me off. Go Bucks.